Good evening, everybody. Welcome to UCalgary Parent Orientation Evening. We're very excited to have everybody joining us. I might just ask our other presenters to turn their cameras on, and we'll just go through a quick little introduction and get right into the evening because we know we have lots of questions and we're very excited to be able to get answering those for you. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lenore Oler. I am the current coordinator of orientation and student involvement at the University of Calgary. I'm a member of the amazing Office of Student Engagement and Leadership and Student Engagement, pardon me, and I'm excited to be here this evening. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us, and I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary is also home to Métis Nations of Alberta, Region 3. In particular, we offer our thanks to the elders, knowledge keepers, plants, animals, birds, and people who have cared for this land and continue to do this work for the benefit of us and future generations. So just wanted to give a quick rundown of what we're going to be covering this evening. Just wanted to mention that we know that we are coming to you in a somewhat of a familiar setting now after we've been doing so in the last 6 months, but we really do appreciate that we are in different territory than we usually would be. Being able to be face-to-face and shaking hands and smiling at each other is something that we sincerely miss, and the same is true when it comes to your students. But we really are happy that you're joining us here today to get information, and we are hopeful that we will be able to at least get as much as we can in your hands to equip you for your students coming to our virtual or possibly in-person new semester coming up in September. So parent-family orientation is an event that guides student support systems as their loved ones transition into university. So this virtual event is going to aid in learning how to facilitate student success as a supporter, and it will equip you with the appropriate resources and information that helps you feel comfortable. The event will feature presentations from individuals across campus highlighting student and campus life, financial aid, student wellness, and more. The Family Handbook is made available as an additional resource. If anyone has any questions about that, please do feel free to email us. And it is something that is available currently on our website and highly recommended. Lots of great information, and it has been meticulously updated to include pieces that are specific to what is the year of 2020. We are very excited to welcome our key presenters, and we're also welcoming 3 students for a Q&A session. So we do have Rachel, who's with us, that you're able to see on camera, but she does have some great support and a couple other students who will be helping field some questions when we get to the end of our sessions here and end of our presentations. I will let each participant introduce themselves, but I just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Please note that the session is being recorded, and we will make it available on the UCalgary orientation website. We will be sure to send an email out to all registrants of the event and let them know where to find that specifically. So if you do miss out on anything, or if you have to hop off for any reason, just know that we will make sure to get this into your hands. We will be sending a follow-up email that has that information along with some other pieces, and we will make sure to include any information that seems very relevant. If it's a popular topic throughout the evening, we'll make sure that we're getting as many resources available as possible in that email to you. And we will also include information on our upcoming virtual campus resource fair. So you will all be invited to join us on September 4th between 2:30 and 4 o'clock and for a virtual event where we will have different representatives in addition to the areas who are represented here today, who will be doing a virtual expo of sorts where you will be able to have some one-on-one interactions and group interactions in a virtual setup. So that'll be something that we are very excited to roll out, and something that will be akin to what your student is going to be a part of during orientation. So as I mentioned before, we're going to have a nice round of introductions from each of our presenters, but I would like to formally introduce Jennifer Quinn to start us off. She is our Senior Director of Student Services, and we're very, very happy to have her with us.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. As Lenore said, I'm the Senior Director of Student Services here at the university. I've been here with the University of Calgary since 2008 and been lucky enough to be in the same role since then and been part of this fantastic university community. My position oversees a number of student support services that I'll be discussing tonight in more detail. Lenore asked us to speak to one of our favorite parts of our role, and one of the pieces of my role that I enjoy most is the opportunity to interact with students. I get the opportunity every year to chair something called First Year Council, which is a group of first year students representing each faculty who meet with us every month to give us feedback on what their experience is like, where we can improve, where we're doing well. And it gives me the opportunity to get to know them and watch them grow and flourish over their first year and then over the following years as they get ready to graduate from the university. So I consider myself pretty lucky to be in a role where I still have some pretty neat engagement with students on a regular basis. So, welcome, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. Much appreciated. Next, we'll head over to Roxanne. And Roxanne, one of the questions that Jen mentioned is we would love to hear a little bit about how you are student-facing, how you interact with those new first-year students, and maybe a little bit of history on your time at UCalgary.
Thanks, Lenore, for sure. So I'm Roxanne Ross. Welcome, everyone. I'm the director of the Student Success Center. I've been with the university, had the privilege of being with the Student Success Center since 2011, so just under 10 years. A big part of my role is working with a team of academic development specialists and advising professionals in developing programming that really helps first-year students transition smoothly around the academic transitions and the new learning opportunities that they have. And so that's one of my favorite parts of the role. I'm really excited to share some of the programs and services that we have for your children, for your child as they enter university in terms of supporting their academic goals and their academic skills.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roxanne. And next, I would love to have Michelle tell us a little bit more about herself.
Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. I'm Michelle McKenzie. I'm the Assistant Registrar in Enrollment Services. I've had the privilege of working in the Office of the Registrar here since 2008. And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite times of the year in our entire cycle is getting to welcome new students to campus and connect with the new students and their families as they embark on a exciting and overwhelming time in their journey. And one of the great things about my role is that my team is able to support students from the beginning stages as they start course registration and planning financially, right through to convocation and the time that they're on stage walking across getting their degree. And that's one of my favorite things about my role and working in the Office of the Registrar is our team is able to support students through that entire process. And it's so great to see students who we've been able to connect with in the early stages of their undergraduate or graduate journeys, and also get to see them as they're taking those final steps across the stage. So a lot between now and then for you and your student, but happy to be there as a guide along the way. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. And I would then like to throw it over to Kevin.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Lenore. My name is Kevin Weens. I'm the manager of student wellness support with Student Wellness Services here on campus. I've worked with the university since 2012 in a variety of student service roles, and have had the privilege of supporting students through various levels of their academic journey. I've been with Student Wellness now for 2 years, and it is most rewarding to provide students the opportunity to come in and chat with someone. We do a lot of group programming and workshops, and really just trying to focus on the students' overall well-being. So we're here when they need us most. So, that's a very rewarding part of the role that we have in wellness, to be able to provide support when things don't necessarily go as planned. So excited to be here and answer some questions as well at the end. So thanks, Lenore.
Thank you, Kevin. So just a note for our participants, we do not have the chat feature enabled today. We are hoping that we'll be able to answer questions for everybody over email. So if you do have questions, please go ahead and send them to family@ucalgary.ca. We will be adding questions to the list as the event goes on. And if we are unable to answer all of the questions, we will be sure to reply to emails and make sure the questions are answered within 3 business days. So we feel like we are going to be able to reach a really broad spectrum when it comes to the presentation. So we'll also be taking a look. If you have pre-submitted some questions, we would like to say thank you very much. If we are covering answers to those questions within the presentations, those are ones that we might just hold off on asking when we come to the Q&A, but we will be monitoring that email throughout the session today. So please go ahead and send them over. And also, I would just like to mention we are going to be turning off our screens while we are showing our slides. And we will have all the presenters here at the end of the session to, again, be able to speak to those questions that are coming through over email. So with that, we will get started. With that, we will get started with Jennifer Quinn.
Great. Thanks, Lenore. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Jen. Thank you.
Okay. Well, everyone, it's wonderful to be here tonight. I'm excited that so many of you are able to join us. This is our very first virtual parent and family orientation. As Senior Director of Student Services, I oversee a number of our central support services, and I'm going to be providing a brief overview of them for you tonight. My colleague Roxanne Ross, whom you just met, will then join me to specifically discuss academic support services and how we're working to help our students to learn effectively online, as I know this is top of mind for many of you. So things will look slightly different on campus this fall, but the consistent element that's always been part of the University of Calgary is that we're a strong and resilient community, and we're here for one another. I assure you that your student will become part of this connected community when they begin their classes in September. Before I launch into our services, I'd like to spend just a few moments introducing you to the Thriving model, which frames our work and helps us to focus the programming that we offer to our students. So thriving students are those who experience academic success, a connection to their community, and who feel an overall sense of well-being. So you might be asking yourself how we will achieve this, as many of our students learn remotely this fall term and spend relatively little time on campus compared to years past. We've spent the last 6 months working to address how to engage our students online and help them to succeed in this new virtual world. And we've learned along the way what we always knew, that our students, faculty, and staff are resilient and innovative people. And in many cases, we've actually found our students to be more engaged in programs and services that contribute to their academic success, that connect them to community, and that enhance their sense of well-being while engaging remotely. Our university has invested in great digital platforms, and students are using them. They're using them to plan club meetings, to play board games together, to host trivia nights, and even to sit together in a virtual study hall. We're actually hearing from students that the move to virtual programming and service delivery has made some of our programs feel more accessible to them. So that's been some great feedback. So with that, I'm going to spend the next few minutes providing an overview of some of the key services at the university that exist to support student thriving. I'm going to spend a little more time on those programs that are dedicated to our first-year students and to supporting the transition to university. I'll start with a service that helps students to connect to community, and specifically to their future career community. Career services can provide tools and guidance on how a student's strengths, talents, and interests can connect to a future career. Regardless of whether your son or daughter has had a clear career path in mind for years, or they've not yet determined what their ideal career would be after university, Our career specialists work with students to help them explore their options and consider the experience they should be getting while in university to make them competitive candidates for the career they aspire to. We strongly encourage students to be proactive about their career planning. Depending on their program, they may decide to take a co-op, internship, or field study program, and if that's the case, they should connect with a career advisor by the end of their first year to start getting support with things like their resume and interview practice. Throughout the fall and winter semesters, employers are engaged with career services almost every week for virtual information sessions and industry speaker series. Employers hire our students and new grads through jobs posted on CareerLink, which includes part-time, full-time, and summer postings. Our on-campus departments that hire student employees also advertise through career services. So if your student is looking to work part-time while studying, Career Services and the CareerLink website will be a valuable resource throughout their undergraduate career. I'll now move to a service that provides support to our Indigenous students, but also to our non-Indigenous student population. Writing Symbols Lodge offers culturally inclusive support services and a myriad of learning and involvement opportunities for any student who's interested in learning more about and engaging with Indigenous tradition and culture. Specialized orientation programming through Writing Symbols Lodge introduces our Indigenous students to staff, elders, and cultural supports. We offer advising services to our Indigenous students who are seeking support in any aspect of their academic journey, and advisors work with students directly and also offer valuable referrals to specialized services and supports across campus and within our community. Tia Kumas Sasta is our Indigenous Student Success and Engagement Program and encompasses a holistic approach to academic success, empowerment, and self-development by providing academic and cultural guidance. This program offers programming weekly to our students and has become a hugely popular program in Writing Symbols Lodge. Otipimskan is a community-based Indigenous youth outreach program designed to motivate and empower Indigenous youth to become leaders and to seek the leader within. Our Indigenous students who participate in orientation programming within Writing Symbols Lodge will actually have the opportunity to participate in Otipimskan training. Finally, the Indigenous Relations Training Program is open to any student at the university. This program provides 30 hours of co-curricular training to students who are seeking to gain a better understanding of Indigenous people and their culture as we work towards reconciliation in Canada. And I've noted the next program offering, and students can register online for that program. Next, I'll move to discussing a service that supports our international students in their transition to university and also helps to connect our international students to their new Canadian community. International Student Services offers dedicated advising to our international students so that we can better address their unique needs. This unit also employs a number of immigration advisors to assist students with everything from obtaining study or work permits to supporting students who are seeking permanent residency. Our International Student Mentorship Program connects new international students with upper year students from a similar area of study. Our mentors work to welcome and build connections with new international students and provide peer-to-peer advice about adapting to studying at the university. If your student is an international student, even if they're studying remotely, please encourage them to look on the International Student Services website and apply for the International Mentorship Program. It's a really valuable program for connecting students with one another and with the university. International Student Services also runs social events throughout the fall and winter term. These events run at least twice a month and include a variety of offerings that highlight campus events, local attractions, and of course, virtual opportunities for students to connect. Finally, I want to mention that our Welcome Center is open now, and it will remain open until September 4th. The Welcome Center provides transition support for students, both international and domestic, who are new to Calgary. So for our students who are joining us from across Alberta, from across Canada, our international students joining us, Welcome Center advisors are peers, and they're available to help new students with anything from finding suitable housing, learning how to navigate local transit, find local grocery stores, and answer any questions students might have about life in the city of Calgary. Our advisors are available virtually this year, and I've provided the email address there if your student would like to connect with the Welcome Center. The Leadership and Student Engagement Office, or the LSE as our students call it, offers a number of programs for first-year students. This is the office that coordinates our orientation and transition support programs, including tonight's parent and family orientation, and they coordinate a number of initiatives that have been designed to help new students find and create community on campus. I'm going to profile the Emerging Leaders program tonight as one such program. This year-long leadership development and transition support program allows students to meet one another, attend workshops, participate in the leadership retreat, and meet regularly with a faculty, staff, or senior student mentor to help them navigate their first year. Students require no previous leadership experience to participate in this program, and the cohort model of the program has been really effective in helping students to make lasting friendships and connections with others during their first year. The majority of programming will be held virtually this year, so it's a great opportunity for students to meet and connect with one another regularly without worrying about things like managing the evening commute. If your son or daughter is not interested in delving into personal leadership development just yet, the first year experience stream of the program is one that's more focused on social activities and helping students to connect to one another. We have approximately 300 students participate in this program every year, and many form long-lasting friendships as a result. This year, we feel like the program will be more important than ever as our first-year students look for opportunities to meet and engage with their peers. Applications are available on the Leadership and Student Engagement website. Please encourage your students to apply and note that there's an application deadline of September 16th. Also coordinated by the Leadership and Student Engagement Office, our online orientation program recognizes that students are receiving a lot of information during these first few weeks on campus, and it can be overwhelming and difficult to retain it all. We launched online orientation to provide all new students with access to essential resources throughout their first term. And I should note that this program was launched on July 15th, so your student does have access now to the resources on the online orientation program. New content is released on a rolling basis, and we've planned it all out so that it's released at a time when it will be most applicable to students. One component of online orientation is a planning tool that'll help students set personal goals for their first 6 weeks on campus. These goals can range from academic to well-being to finding community, and we encourage all students to take a few moments in the next week to set some goals for their first year at the University of Calgary. Finally, fall orientation, while also virtual this year, is different than our online orientation program that's already launched. Fall orientation is a 2-day event beginning next Thursday that's dedicated to helping our new students become acclimated to the University of Calgary. Orientation welcomes and celebrates our incoming class and serves as a really important program in supporting a successful transition to university. Fall orientation will look different this year than it has in the past, with all of our sessions occurring online, but it's just as important for students to participate. We have some fun virtual events lined up, including an app-based scavenger hunt, opportunities to meet with and learn from our volunteer orientation leaders, and lots of opportunities for students to meet one another. Students must register for fall orientation with their UCalgary email address so that they can be placed in a group with other first-year students and connected to their upper year orientation leader, and so that they can get access to all of the Zoom links they'll need to participate in sessions. If your son or daughter hasn't yet registered, please encourage them to go to the orientation website and register right away. Also of note, our orientations for specialized student populations, including our Indigenous and international students, will be held a bit earlier next week. So please visit the orientation website for all the important dates, details, and registration links. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Roxanne to discuss the Student Success Center and the services that we offer to support our students in their academics.
Thanks, Jen. In the Student Success Center, we support students' academic success in 3 main areas. And I'm going to highlight some of these. in a general sense, just some of the programming that we generally offer that is relevant to first-year students. And then I also want to speak specifically on some of the developments in online learning specifically. So just to begin with, learning support services, we aim to help students develop the skills and strategies that they need to succeed with all the new ways of learning that they're going to encounter. Our academic development specialists at the Student Success Center in particular are available to meet with students one-on-one. We're meeting remotely right now, but that seems to be going very well. And students can meet with them to discuss a wide range of topics around their academics. So these include strategies for taking notes, managing their readings, managing their time and maintaining motivation, as well as applying for scholarships and awards and long-term academic planning. While this service is available to students in all academic years, it can be really valuable for our incoming first-year students to meet with an academic development specialist to really get to know a supportive staff member who has some expertise in helping students to enhance the study skills that they bring already from high school and to transition those to university level studies. As I mentioned, currently our appointments are offered remotely and students can book appointments online through the Student Success Center website. Academic support staff also provide numerous events and workshops to support students, and I'm going to provide a few examples of these in a moment. Moving on to advising support, the Student Success Center has a team of exploratory advisors who can meet with students in person and in small group sessions to provide academic planning help for students. This is really meaningful if your student is maybe a little unsure of the university program that they'd like to pursue, or they'd like to explore university programs more broadly. We often hear students say, oh, I didn't know you could study something like anthropology. So it can be really helpful for students to meet with an exploratory advisor, talk about their interests and their skills and some of their aspirational goals in relation to the programs that are offered at the university. So this is a service, again, that's being offered remotely. These appointments and group sessions are going to be offered virtually, and they're also bookable through the Student Success Center website. Lastly, just to highlight writing support. So we provide one-on-one appointments for students who would like to develop their academic writing skills in the context of their academic assignments. So what that means is that students can book appointments offered virtually in fall with writing tutors and bring in their specific writing assignments at any stage of the process to get feedback before they actually submit them to instructors. This is a very highly utilized service, and so if your student has any writing assignments, I would highly recommend that you encourage them to access this service. And in addition, we're offering workshops, particularly for first-year students in the beginning of the term, to help them transition to university level writing with a variety of different topics around academic integrity, crafting thesis statements, and so on. Moving on to some of the supports for online learning. So we've been working really hard over the past 5 months or so in trying to connect with students to find out, our current students, what some of their challenges are with online learning, and then also develop materials that are useful to students. So the first thing to highlight is a D2L course called Introduction to Online Learning. And what this does is provide a practice space for students so that they can try out various activities that they will have to complete in online courses, such as posting on discussion boards, or additionally taking a practice quiz, those sorts of things. So we're really trying to create a space where students can actually feel comfortable with one of the main tools, and that is D2L, that their course instructors will be using. Secondly, we've created a wealth of videos and handouts on a variety of different topics, from maintaining motivation, how to connect with other students to study in groups online, and many, many other different strategies. So this is available through the Student Success Center website, both of these programs. So again, another piece that I would highly recommend. And lastly, just to focus on some of the group programming that we have created. So we are really trying to create some community, some learning communities for students who may traditionally study on the university campus in group study sessions and that sort of thing. We have been able to really successfully transition those online. The first program that I would highlight for first-year students is our virtual study halls. And so what we were hearing from students is that it's really helpful to have a structured study space, and that this would, we surmise that this would also be very helpful for first-year students. So we have some wonderful student volunteers, some of our senior students who we've been training to run these study halls, and they're going to share, they're very eager to share some of their tips for online learning with our incoming students, and then they will also run a structured study session so that students will be able to study and take breaks, get to know the senior student and some of the other students that attend the study hall to try to create some learning community and some structured study support. We also have a program called peer assisted study sessions, and these particular sessions are offered to students in designated courses. Our students call this PASS. And so students, if they have a PASS course, they will find out about that in their course. But again, this is a senior student who has done very well in the course, who leads them through group study sessions. So I would highly encourage students to take part in that. And lastly, we have a number of success seminars that we're offering. We offer these every year, but this year they will be offered virtually, and many of them focus on topics on online learning. So these will be presented by our academic development specialists. It's a great way for students to kind of get to know academic development specialists who work with us that they can then meet later on in one-on-one settings. And we're going to be covering topics ranging from time management, study skills, and preparing for exams and tests. So that's just a little snapshot of some of the online learning programming that we'll be offering. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Kevin Weens, who's going to talk about student wellness services and some of the ways that we support student well-being at the university.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Roxanne. So I'm going to talk a little bit about student wellness services and how we support and engage with students throughout their whole academic journey here at the University of Calgary. So the work of wellness services is closely linked to the campus mental health strategy. And this strategy was launched in December 2015 and focuses on improving the mental health and well-being for students, faculty, and staff. We know here that student health and well-being is essential to academic success, and it is important that each member of the campus community knows the value of seeking help early and where to go for support when it is needed. An important function is, we collaborate with other academic and student service units to support students in the best way possible. And so that can include everything from faculty advising offices and certainly Roxanne and her team in the Student Success Center, Writing Symbols Lodge. It really is a collaborative effort. Student health and well-being is something that is of utmost importance to the entire campus community, and something that we strive to support, students in the best way possible, and hence the collaboration that occurs. Over the next few slides, I'm going to just provide an overview of some of the services available to support students' health and well-being. So we are a multidisciplinary clinic located on the third floor of the MacEwan Student Center. Staff here work to promote and maintain student health and well-being in a variety of ways. This most notable services, so health services, mental health services. We do outreach for students, as well as training and health promotion. So we cover the spectrum from prevention and upstream support to also providing that immediate support when students are in crises. All of these services are currently available virtually to try to be as accommodating as possible. And so we've been providing service to students virtually since mid-March. So a little bit about our health services. So we are a primary care clinic, and the health services are student-centered, accessible, and free for procedures that are covered under provincial healthcare plans. Of course, all of this is confidential, and the quality service is provided by caring staff with extensive university health experience. Many of our staff have been with the university for over 20 years, so they're well attuned to the student life cycle and the needs of students. So some notable health services include family medicine for students and their dependents, psychiatric supports. We have behavioral health consultants that we work with through AHS, massage therapy and chiropractic services, and as well as a travel clinic and vaccination services as well. For the massage therapy and chiropractic, there is a fee, to access those, as well as for some of the immunization services as well. But there is a reduced cost for students. Part of these costs may be covered by insurance, depending on which plan the student is on. So we always encourage students and their families to check with their benefits provider to discover what the plan covers. We're probably most notably noted for our mental health services, and we have a multidisciplinary team of counselors, social workers, doctors, and nurses, all with the overall aim to support students' mental health and well-being through a variety of services. Again, all students are able to access the services listed here at no charge. Here on campus, we provide single session counseling to provide faster access to support when students need it most. And this can be thought of as a one at a time counseling. We continue to provide group supports, coordinated care, brief ongoing counseling, and referrals to the community to meet the multitude of diverse student needs. For counseling appointments, students typically have about an hour to explore concerns, gain insights, and co-create some ideas and strategies so that they can leave the appointment with a tangible plan and a sense of direction going forward. Many of our students actually find that one session of counseling meets their needs, but certainly at the end of that, a collaborative discussion, occurs, and students are able to come back, for another session. Strength of our team is what we call coordinated care. And so this provides students a named support person following any type of counseling appointment. And that person is the student's key point of contact for the purpose of coordinated care. And, this is really to help students reach their optimum level of wellness through practical problem solving, supportive check-ins, resource navigation, and linking and liaising with campus and community resources. Individual counseling is offered within a brief therapy model, and counselors work collaboratively with students to help clarify goals and to develop plans for positive changes. All of our counseling is provided by registered psychologists and social workers with extensive post-secondary experience, and we are also a training center for graduate practicum students and interns, of course, under the appropriate supervision. In general, we encourage all students to be proactive and to seek assistance in a timely manner. And the first step to accessing mental health support is to reach out. Going back to the collaborations that we have with many offices on campus, many students are connected with us through what we call a warm referral, whether they're sitting with an advisor, in their faculty or department, or over at the Student Success Center. And then we work with students that way as well, who are referred to us. For many student concerns, peer and group support is also an effective intervention. Many students report finding it very helpful to connect with others who are experiencing similar concerns. So some of the groups and workshops that we offer, include anxiety management, roots of resiliency, mindfulness, stress management, motivation, and procrastination. So we try to cover off all of the big topics that we typically see students presenting, in our office with, and as a way to help them be proactive and also gain some strategies and coping mechanisms along the way. And the last aspect of the work that we do in the services that we provide is, a focus on health promotion and outreach. And so this team, the health promotion team, provides opportunities for students to get involved through awareness events and activities on campus, such as an initiative called You Flourish Week, which is aimed at building positive mental health and resilience. And this typically happens around mid-October and is a week-long event. It's going to happen this year, although virtually, of course. And it's just a great way for students to learn a little bit more about resilience and flourishing, and how they can take care of themselves as well as others. The training that we also provide students, includes things such as helping skills and being a community helper. We provide applied suicide intervention skills training, as well at no cost for students. So a lot of great opportunities there as well. And so for peer listening, I know I had mentioned it previously, so we're going to start this again virtually September 21st. It's going to be weekdays from 2 to 4. All of these are student volunteers who have extensive training in active listening and crisis response, and they will also be supported by a staff member as well, when needed. And so they know the stresses of being a student and are available to support other students during the fall and winter term. All of this is free, confidential, and non-judgmental. And so this is a value-added program that we get great feedback on, and students definitely appreciate the opportunity to connect. For those times when we're not in the office and support is still needed because students study late, and we also have students living in residence, we've partnered with Woods Homes and the Calgary Distress Center, so that when students phone wellness services after hours, they have the option of being connected to a crisis counselor from the Woods Homes community resource team, or a highly trained volunteer at the Distress Center. And so this is a unique partnership that the U of C has, something that is utilized, and because we never want a student to go without. And so our after hours support is available 24/7. Campus security is also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, going back to our core purpose and mandate of always wanting to provide students with support. So I'm just going to go through some 5 tips to maintain wellness, and I realize now that these are not listed on the slide, but all of this information is on our website as well. And so just a couple of points. So we encourage all students and community members to really take steps to maintain wellness on a daily basis. So this may be registering for a fitness class, even if it is virtual now, going for a walk, taking regular breaks, and dividing tasks into manageable pieces. Connecting with others and asking how they are doing. Becoming familiar with available resources and seeking help when needed. And also really, trying to help students keep in mind that, their health is foundational to success, right? Seeking help when needed, reiterating, attend a workshop, connect with peer support, or just come in for a checkup. Last, to consider all dimensions of wellness, including physical, emotional, and social health. All of those are, topics that are covered in appointments that students have with, members of our wellness team. And, we do take a holistic approach. We always get questions about the student benefit plan of, most notable here is the opt-out deadline of September 25th this year. So the Student Health and Dental Plan is provided through Gallivan Student Health and Wellness. So they have a great online portal, and they've really done a great job at creating an online center exclusively for U of C undergraduate students, as a convenient way to source information specific to their benefit plan. I don't have a ton of information because that is handled through the Health and Dental office, but they definitely have a great team over there. And their contact information is located on this page as well. Lastly, just a little bit about our contact information. So yes, we're virtual, and yes, we will continue to offer virtual services throughout the fall term, for sure. But for those students who are on campus or who are living in residence, they can certainly drop by and see someone in person as well. Obviously on a limited basis, but our website has a wealth of information, as well. In terms of connection, we are widely connected across campus. We have a growing social media presence, and just are really trying to connect with the campus community, especially more so this year than ever. In the virtual world that we're in. So that's it for me, and I am going to pass this off to Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I just wanted to highlight some of the key pieces that I'm going to cover today. This time of year, we're getting a lot of questions from students and parents to the enrollment services team. So some pieces that I was excited to see some questions that were emailed in advance, and hopefully if you still have questions, I'm able to cover them in what I'm going to share with you tonight. So want to start first by talking about student fees. Again, this is a common inquiry from students and parents this time of year as everyone's gearing up to start studies and looking at next steps. So one of the common questions that we get is, how do I know how much I owe? And this information is available to students through their My UCalgary online student center. So students can log in and navigate to their My Financials section of their student center and find information about their financial account, any payments that they've made, and account activity. And this includes optional fees and any opt-outs that a student might have submitted, so they can track the status of those as well. So the main landing page in the Student Center will show the total tuition and fees a student owes for each term. If your student's staying in residence as well, this year their residence charges will show up here. So in one easy spot, students are able to see a snapshot of what they're owing to the university for each term. And there's also some great features in this section of the portal. Students can view their payment history, print receipts, request a refund for an overpayment. And when tax time comes around in February, March, this is where students will go to print off their T20 and 202 tax forms for submission with their tax filing. So I want to take some time to talk about general fees, as we often receive a lot of questions in this area. And this year especially, there have been some changes to general fees for fall 2020, mostly due to COVID-19 and those impacts. So I want to make sure I highlight those. The general fees your student is assessed will depend on whether they are registered full or part-time, as well as this term will depend on whether their courses are being delivered fully online, on campus, or with a blended or hybrid approach. So some primary changes to note. The UPass program is the Universal Transit Pass offered through the City of Calgary, and the city has actually suspended the UPass program for the fall term. So as a result, students have not been charged this fee as part of their general fees for the fall 2020 term. Campus recreation is also only being charged for the fall 2020 term for students who have an on-campus component to their coursework. So students who are fully online but want to access campus recreation can actually opt in through recreation services directly if that's something that they're wanting to take advantage of, but it won't be automatically charged as part of their general fees. And athletics as well are only being charged for students with on-campus components of their coursework. So at this time, there haven't been any decisions made regarding the delivery of winter 2021 courses. So as a result, all general fees have been assessed for students for the winter 2021 term, and they will be updated if required once a decision is made about the winter 2021 term. I also want to highlight optional fees, because this is a common question that our team gets, is what of the general fees are optional, and how does my student opt out of those fees? So this screenshot is an example of a student with no on-campus course components, and this is their account inquiry screen. So the UG donation, or the undergraduate donation, is a $10 fee that goes towards a student peer assistance bursary. So it's basically a Students Helping Students bursary program. So students who opt out of their donation will still be eligible to apply for the student peer assistance bursary, but they'll have the maximum award amount they may be eligible for reduced by $1,000. Students must opt out of this optional fee each term by the term fee payment deadline. So for fall, that is September 25th. The undergraduate health and dental is something that a student can opt out of with proof of alternate coverage, as Kevin sort of alluded to in his previous slide. This is a one-time opt-out, so students only need to submit an opt-out once, but can opt back in at any time by calling the health and dental office. And again, the deadline to opt out of the health and dental plan is the term fee payment deadline. So that's a big deadline to pay attention to, especially if your student will be opting out of the optional fees. Now that I've covered fees and how to find them, I want to talk a little bit about what options are for paying fees. So for domestic students, online banking is the method for students to pay their fees. So students or parents can make a payment for tuition in 4 easy steps, basically by logging onto your online banking portal and setting up the University of Calgary as a bill payee. If your student is in residence, you can also set up the University of Calgary residence as a secondary bill payee to make a payment for the residence fees as well. And international students have 2 payment options. We just recently introduced the CIBC International Student Pay as an option this summer, just to provide more pathways and opportunities for international students, especially with some of the restrictions and limitations to make payments. We wanted to make sure there were as many options as possible for international students to ensure that they can pay their fees. So there's 2 options available to pay, and there's options to pay in both the currency of your home country, as well as US dollar and Canadian dollar currencies in a variety of scenarios. So that's a great opportunity to explore there. I also want to take a moment to put a plug in for an exciting advisor series we launched this summer called Financial Fridays. And this is led by members of the Enrollment Services Advising team and has run every Friday through the summer to highlight a financial related topic and provide some really good web-based advising and answers to frequently asked questions from students. So our last Financial Friday series for the summer is actually happening this Friday, August 28th, and it's a guide to online banking. So if your student is wanting some guidance on how to set up their online banking and make sure that their fee payment comes through successfully, they can definitely check that out and speak with a very knowledgeable advisor who can help guide them through the process and answer any questions they have. Your student can visit ucalgary.ca/registrar and click on upcoming events, and they'll be able to find that Financial Friday session. All right, and then on to student financial support. So we know that students will access multiple pathways for financing their education. Our team in Enrollment Services is very knowledgeable at supporting a lot of the common student financial support opportunities. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to highlight some of those based on common questions that we receive. So for high school awards, students who applied by the March 1st deadline will have been notified. There are some reselections that are occurring, but for the most part, if your student's receiving a high school award, they'll have been given notification of that already. Disbursements are split up into halves, and so half of the award that your student received should already have been dispersed and be showing up on the student's My Financial section of their student portal. And then the second half of their award will be dispersed to their student portal in early December. If your student is receiving an award that exceeds their tuition and general fees, congratulations, that's very exciting. And they'll be getting a refund of the excess award direct deposited to their bank account, either October 25th for the fall or February 25th for the winter. Really important that your student maintains eligibility for those awards they've received by ensuring they maintain full-time enrollment over both the fall and winter term. Student loans is another common funding pathway for students. Your student may already have applied for funding. Students can apply for loans up to 30 days before the end of their study period. So if this isn't something your student has explored, it's not too late to explore those options. Once students apply, they receive approval and a master student financial aid agreement directly from their lender. Really important if a student has applied for student loans that you check in with them to make sure they have completed and returned that MSFAA. That is their ticket to receiving funding. So that's a really important document that the lender needs to receive in order for students to get their funds, and it's a common piece that's missed by students. Our role in the student loans process is to confirm information about the student as well as the program of study and study dates back to the lender so that the funds that the student's been approved for can be dispersed to them to cover off their educational and living expenses. So the loan is dispersed directly to the student once we've confirmed registration and the student details. And that usually happens the first week of September for the fall and the first week of January for the winter. Again, really important, your student maintains full-time course registration to maintain their eligibility for those student loans, and that they check in with enrollment services and notify our team if they're contemplating or are making changes to their course registration that would drop them below full-time status. Just allows us to provide students with some advising and options available to them if they're looking to drop to part-time studies. If you've been contributing to a registered education savings plan for your student, now's the time you'll probably be looking to access those funds. Our team has tried to make the process as simple as possible for you and your student to obtain the required documentation, and this will depend on what process your RESP provider outlines. Most commonly, either the provider will have their own form that they need to be completed by the Office of the Registrar, or they won't provide a form but will require confirmation of registration. So if you do have a form provided from your RESP provider, your student can scan that form and email it directly from their UCalgary email account, and our team will complete that and send it back. If your RESP provider doesn't have their own form, we do have a confirmation of registration letter, which is an official University of Calgary letter that students can print off through their My UCalgary online student center. So I do have a link here for the steps, a step-by-step guide for students to print that off. Really important that students are registered full-time before submitting their request for printing off that letter, because most RESP providers look to see that verification of full-time course registration before releasing funds. And I did want to touch on external funding. So there may be a variety of other third-party funding opportunities your student is accessing. If you or your student have questions specific to your situation, I would encourage you to have your student reach out to the Enrollment Services Advising Team to discuss, and we can certainly provide options and the best plan for either accessing that funding or getting that funding dispersed. Alexander Rutherford is a common scholarship that Alberta students will access in their first year. Students who apply and are eligible to receive payment from the Government of Alberta directly, and they'll receive that in October or November. If your student has a third-party award or scholarship, it might have been provided from a club or an organization that you belong to, I'd encourage you to inquire about payment options and request that the award be paid to the student directly. Many providers will issue funding directly to students with a confirmation of registration letter, and that's a letter students can easily print off their student center. If you have a third-party award from a club or organization and a check has been issued to the University of Calgary, they can either be mailed in or dropped off at our advising office in McKinney Tower 116, weekdays between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and we will have somebody from the team that's available to receive those payments.
Michelle, may I just hop in here? It's Lenore.
Hi.
My apologies for interrupting. We just had a question I thought would be good to be answered for the group, if I may.
Sure.
Just wanted to ask if you would be able to let us know the difference between full-time versus part-time students as it pertains to all of this information.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a full-time student will be enrolled in or registered in 3 courses each term. So 3 3-unit courses each term. And a part-time student would be registered in less than 3 credit courses each term. So most courses are 3 units. On our side, on the administrative end, we consider 9 units to be full-time enrollment, but 3 courses is typically what we look for a student to be full-time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. So in wrapping up my discussion on student financial supports, I also want to highlight a unique program offered by the University of Calgary called the Money Smart program. And so this program is aimed at helping students gain financial literacy skills, increase their confidence in financial topics, and manage healthy debt loads while they study here. The program has a variety of opportunities for students to engage with the program. And this year, we're excited to launch a unique online personal finance initiative that allows students to participate in self-directed personal finance modules designed and created by through a partnership with UCalgary professors and students. And it tackles financial topics in ways that address the unique needs and concerns of post-secondary students. It's a really exciting program. It's been over a year in the making, and it will be launching in October. Students who complete the modules will receive digital badges in recognition of their participation, and they'll also have the opportunity to win a variety of prizes, including a $1,000 award that they can apply to next year's tuition. And I just want to close by highlighting some important final pieces, including some important dates. And as a supporter for your student, reminding them that dates and deadlines are an important part of their student journey and experience will help to set them up for success. For the fall term, I want to highlight some really key dates. The first day of classes is fast approaching, and students will begin their regular term studies Tuesday, September 8th. We understand that not all classes or instructors will necessarily be the right fit, so we allow students the opportunity to drop courses up until September 17th. So students can make changes to their registration without financial penalty up until that deadline. Students can add courses up until September 18th. So if there's a course that they've been watching but maybe just haven't been able to get a seat in, they have right up until September 18th to snag a spot. After this point, students can still withdraw from courses without a refund of tuition up to the last day of classes on December 9th. So that's another important date as we get towards the end of the term for students to be aware of. As mentioned previously, fees are due on Friday, September 25th. And finally, I just want to highlight the final exam period for the fall term will run from December 12th to December 23rd inclusive. So the detailed final exam schedule that outlines the full schedule specific to your student is released in late October, early November, but students will need to make sure that they're available for the entire exam period. And lastly, I want to make sure you leave tonight knowing how you or your student can get in contact with Enrollment Services if you need any more information about what I've shared tonight, or you have questions specific to and unique to your student. We launched a virtual reception desk via Zoom in April, and it's been really successful, especially for international students or students who want an opportunity to connect with us that isn't by phone or email. So if your student maybe isn't sure who they need to ask a question to or quite what their question is, they can connect with one of our friendly receptionists, and they can help guide your student to the right area to direct their question. Our phone center is open during our regular advising hours, and advisors are excited to engage with students. We've been leveraging technology a lot with our remote advising, and we can walk a student remotely through anything they're seeing on their computer and help them find answers to their questions via our call center, as well as we just launched a UCalgary contact form. So students want to connect with us by email, they can visit our contact form website, identify what their inquiry is, and we'll make sure their inquiry gets to the correct advisor or specialist that can answer their question. And that's all I had to share with you today. So thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Before we move on to the next piece, I just had a quick question for the group as well, if I may. Just wanted to ask when a minor and or major is able to be changed. Michelle, maybe we'll come back to you with that question. So we're going to move on here to our panel question and answer period. I just wanted to direct everyone's attention to the polls and wanted to share some results from one of our last polls. Just interesting to note that 88% of those of you who replied to the poll asking if you are UCalgary alumni are not alumni. So that's pretty interesting, and we're going to drop one more neat question in as we move on to our student panel, as well as our panel of presenters who have been here today. So thank you to everyone for sending in your questions. If I can ask our panelists and presenters to please turn on their camera, that would be wonderful. Perfect. And maybe while I'm just getting ready here, Michelle, I'm not too sure if you caught that question about when the students are able to change their minor and or major. And then I will get us into the next bit here.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. So students who want to declare a minor can check in with their faculty program advisors within their home faculty and discuss options there. The process for changing a major is students can actually do that through their My UCalgary Student Center. There isn't an opportunity to update major for the fall term, but I believe there is one starting in the winter term. And that's something, again, that the program advisors within the faculties can offer some expertise and guidance on. But if a student has made a decision to update their major, they will be able to access the most up-to-date application for the next opportunity through the My UCalgary student portal under program and advising.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. So I just wanted to do a quick introduction here. As I mentioned before, we can see Rachel on the screen, but a couple other students who are joining us from behind the scenes are Nomer and Kelsey. So Rachel is a long-standing community member of UCalgary as she's entering into her graduate program this year. She is in political science, graduate actually, and we're very happy to have her with us. Nomer is a student in biological science, and Kelsey is a student in psychology and speech language sciences. And I can feel Nomer and Kelsey waving at the screen now. So we'll be directing questions pretty pointedly, and thank you to everyone who has sent questions in. I'm going to start off with a question that definitely is burning a hole in lots of people's pockets and directed to Jen. And I'll just remind everybody that Jen's official title is the Senior Director of Student Services at UCalgary. So she has all kinds of information on all kinds of everything. And we're wondering, Jen, if you can chat with us about how the University of Calgary has adjusted to health restrictions due to COVID-19.
Sure, thanks, Lenore. I guess I would say, all things considered, I would say that the university's adjusted really well to the situation that we all find ourselves in. We were able to quite seamlessly transition students to online learning and ensuring that they could access all of the services they needed. Last March, when we moved to remote learning, remote service delivery. We have a COVID task force that meets regularly, that works very closely with the province, with public health, to make decisions, to adjust decisions as we get more information from public health, and to communicate those decisions to the university community. So your students can expect to receive updates related to COVID and health restrictions, any restrictions that are on campus that are either new or lifted restrictions as we adjust those as well, through their UCalgary email. We also have a dedicated COVID-19 website that provides all the latest information from the university in terms of COVID-19 response. Right now, we're in the midst of re-entry, and many of our units are starting to slowly transition back to campus so that we're here when students arrive next week. And we're making those decisions really carefully and thoughtfully, prioritizing always the well-being of our community, and that includes our faculty, staff, and of course our students. And I think that one of the things that I've been most proud and impressed about from the university is just that prioritization of well-being of our people in making our decisions. But your student can expect that they'll receive regular communications from the university. And when they arrive on campus, they'll see lots of new signage, lots of furniture has been moved, which might not seem new to them if they're not familiar with campus, but certainly for those of us who are transitioning back, the campus looks different as we prepare for students and prepare for that with the restrictions that are in place.
Wonderful, thank you, Jen. I also just wanted to make a note when it comes to some of our questions that we are finding in the email. We do really appreciate the specific questions, but we wanted to make sure that we take this opportunity to speak to this sort of transition point that happens for a lot of students, and just make sure that everybody is aware that there are certain questions that we are not actually allowed to answer unless they are coming straight from your students. So that has to do with the fact that students are growing up and becoming responsible for their own information. And so if you do find that some of the answers you might get back over email are sort of alluding to that, we'll make sure that we are kind of making sure that we're directing you to the best way to have your student direct that question. So just want to make sure that we're managing kind of the expectations here and that we're not over-promising and under-delivering by what we are able to share. So those would be things specific to your students' actual information. Maybe Jen, you can jump in here and help me out with a couple of examples. That would be a good way to sort of help our enthusiastic parents out there who we know we are working on helping students, but we just want to make sure that we're getting the information into the right hands at the right time.
I mean, I think you've stated that well, Lenore. I think if there's questions that directly relate to your student's record, we'll send responses and let you know who they can ask. And so we really do encourage students to take responsibility for their degree programs and to reach out to program advisors, reach out to the offices that will be supporting them over the next 4 years so that they start to forge those connections and understand how to navigate the university themselves. And of course, with our students are protected under FOIP, and so there's protection of their own privacy and not releasing information to anyone but them as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. So I have a question.
Can I just add on to that?
Oh, of course. Yes, Kevin, please do.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Lenore, and sorry for interrupting. And to your point, Jen, the piece about privacy and third-party authorization just cued me to mention that we do have a provision in place on campus that the student can provide consent to to their parent or family member to communicate with individuals at the university, but it is a collaborative process. So just a little footnote on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. So next I have a question for Roxanne. And just a reminder again, Roxanne's position is the Director of Student Success Center. So Roxanne, we are wondering if you can talk to us about how the structure of online classes will differ from traditional in-person university courses.
Yeah, thanks, Lenore. So just to kind of give an overview, traditionally courses are structured in either in 3-hour blocks, 1 day a week, or 3 1-hour blocks dispersed over the week, or in 90-minute blocks. So those are kind of the traditional structures that students would come in person. And in addition to that, science courses and some of the other courses would have labs and tutorials that students would go to in addition to their 3 hours per each course. Faculty have been working tirelessly to really transition, to make good pedagogical choices and transition their course content into online formats. There will be some in-person courses, and students can find that in the Student Center when they look up their course structures. It will give a room location and it will say in person if it is in person. For the most part, I think a lot of our students will be learning in an online format, and those could be delivered synchronously, so in those kind of same blocks, those structured blocks, maybe 3 1-hour blocks per week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or asynchronously, meaning that they could be recorded and students would be accessing them at a time at their convenience. So a lot of our students have been talking to us about appreciating the accessibility of the content and the ability to organize their own schedule, but also the challenges that can go with that in terms of making sure that they are setting structured schedules. So that is something that definitely, particularly students, if your student has asynchronous lectures, I would encourage them to connect in with our unit just to kind of help them plan out how they can create some structure. But I think, as I mentioned, I think there's been a lot of really good work happening at the university to think about how to ensure that those course structures really meet the same pedagogical goals. They're just being done in kind of unique and creative ways.
Thank you, Roxanne. I do have a follow-up question for you. Are you able to explain the difference between asynchronous and synchronous for us?
Sure. So asynchronous means that the lectures will not be live. They will be recorded and they will be offered in the D2L course shell. So that means students will be able to access them at any time they would like. Synchronous means that they will be live sessions, that they will be scheduled, and students will need to get on to Zoom at that particular time to participate in that lecture. And there's going to be quite a bit of variation, I think, across campus around how those lectures are delivered. And again, that's available through the Student Center. Students are able to find out. If it's not clear, there's occasionally a session may be offered synchronously, but also recorded and asynchronous. And that can sometimes not be clear in the Student Center. So then I would encourage your student to reach out to the faculty member teaching that course, just to inquire about what the structure would be like. That's I would encourage for all students, but I will just say that the course outlines, this is the document that each instructor creates to describe the courses, will detail all of that information, and those will be available. They're becoming increasingly available through D2L courses that students will be able to find again through D2L in their student center. So as students can start to engage with course outlines, the structures will become more clear.
Wonderful. And Roxanne, I'm going to put you on the spot one more time. Are students able to reach out to their professors or connect with their professors prior to classes starting?
I would say yes. So I think it's always a little daunting, I know, for a first-year student to engage by email with their instructor, but they can for sure. I think that, you know, if they want to inquire, if they've got questions about things, they can reach out. Please note it's a busy time for instructors and they are kind of working again to prepare everything. So there could be some delays in terms of responses, but yes, they can. And I think maybe one other thing to note is once courses begin, faculty will have office hours in some format. That could be via Zoom, virtual opportunities for students to engage. It could be by appointment. So there will be, I think faculty as of winter and now over spring and summer have had opportunities to develop ways that allow for students to engage with them. And we had some students telling us in some of our interviews for the virtual study hall that a lot of faculty have been really making good efforts, really strong efforts to be available for students in a variety of different ways. So faculty are there for students and they can reach out to them. Just note that there might be some delays as we kind of lead into courses. Once courses start, your faculty, your professors, or students, professors, and instructors will be available.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roxanne. So I believe, Jen, this will come back to you and possibly Michelle as well. Michelle, you did touch on this slightly when you were mentioning the way that course fees have been levied. We do have a question about whether or not there are tentative plans for students to return for the winter semester.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So the latest information that I have is that we hope to announce plans for winter 2021 as early as possible, obviously, to allow for students and faculty to make the necessary adjustments. We expect that this information will be available to the campus community by mid to late October. We want to make the best decision for our students, and this means leaving it late enough that we have the most reliable information, but early enough that students and faculty, of course, can make plans for the winter term. And these conversations are top of mind, they're ongoing for the university, and of course are always made in consultation with public health.
Wonderful, thank you, Jen. question here. That's probably a follow-up in regards to accessing campus. Are other buildings, including the library, available, and what is the process if students do want to come to campus outside of classwork?
I'm going to let Roxanne talk about the library because the Student Success Center is located within the library, so she's got the most up-to-date information about accessing the library. But as I mentioned, we are implementing re-entry plans now. So some of our services are starting to open again for students to walk in and have their questions answered. Services in person are pretty limited. So we are continuing to offer services virtually, and that will be the primary mode of delivering services over the fall term. But we recognize that when students are on campus, that if they've got a quick question or an urgent question, that having offices open and available to have those questions answered is important. So when students come back on campus, they can expect offices to be open in a limited capacity.
And I'll just jump in about the library. So there will be some access, so it will be limited because they want to ensure the safety of students and keeping student spaces clean and safe. And so students will be able to book in advance off of the library website, both a study space or a computer space. And so they'll be able to book that time period. So potentially if they were taking some on-campus classes, or if they just wanted to have a bit of a block on campus, they could book that in advance. And then they will access that particular space by signing in to that space. There will be some transition pieces so that we can keep the spaces clean in between students using them. So there is both computer, we wanted to, I think, the library really wanted to ensure that there was some computer spaces available for students on campus, but also some students who are looking for a place to study that maybe wasn't at home. So there is some capacity for that. And students can also take out library materials. A lot of our materials are digital, and a lot of students will have textbooks that they will access through the bookstore or other resources, but there might be other resources that faculty will provide in D2L. For the reading materials, but for those students that will need to access library materials, those will be available too. And the library website has really good detailed information on that.
Wonderful, Roxanne. That does lead into another question. Just if we do have an overarching answer in regards to course material, and mostly what I'm seeing coming up is students that possibly are not within Calgary or in commuting distance to be able to pick up course material available at the bookstore. Do we have a general sort of broad-reaching answer for that right now, or if you can speak to that, that'd be great.
Did you want me to take that one? Yes.
I feel like that is one of the questions of the hours when it comes to our Ask Me inbox. So anyone who can field it would be appreciated for sure.
I can share. So we have been directing students. Students have had lots of questions about textbooks. We've been directing students to the library site. They have a database that typically students enter the course and their course section. So some courses have multiple groupings of students called sections. And so students will need to know their course ID and their section, and then they can look up what course materials they will need. And this is also available in the course outline, which is a document I was talking about earlier that instructors create for the course. We have been encouraging international students to check first if there are digital copies available, just to facilitate ease of getting them if they're going to be studying in their home countries. There are also, certainly students can go through the university bookstore, but as we know, there are other avenues for accessing books. And so the information on what textbooks are required, what textbooks are recommended, is available to students or becoming available more and more through course outlines and through the bookstore. The processes for that, I think I would encourage students to access digital copies if they can. Check with the bookstore first to see if it's possible to order the books through the bookstore. And if not, then look for other avenues. If your student is struggling finding a copy of the textbook or something that they need, they can also reach out to their course instructor. The bookstore also has staff that are very helpful in helping students locate books if there was a particular issue.
And just to add to that, Roxanne, I just pulled up the bookstore website, and they are offering free shipping within Canada for orders over $75, and $10 off shipping internationally. So students do have that option and can get the book shipped directly from the bookstore if that's something they want to look at too.
Perfect. And we will shift to a different line of questioning, I promise, but I feel like maybe we'll group these relevant questions together. I'm just curious if we can chat about the requirements for students if they are not doing any in-person classes. Is there anything that requires them to be in close proximity to campus or Calgary, or even international students if they are able to remain in their hometown while they're doing things remotely? And then also a quick question about if the oval as well as the recreation areas will be open. I leave that open to our panelists to decide who might be best for that one.
I would say that I would encourage a student to just reach out to their advisors and their faculty to if they've got specific questions or concerns about requirements to be in Calgary. It's a difficult question, I think, to answer really broadly, because we don't have the option of looking at a student's record and really understanding what their course load is and what those requirements might be. So parents, if your students are concerned about that, have them look at who their faculty advisors are and reach out to those folks. The Student Success Center advisors can also either help or refer them to the appropriate advisor in the faculty to get those questions answered.
Perfect. And then we may have to get a little bit more information sent over email in regards to the fitness center and oval and what that's going to look like. So we will work on that.
Campus recreation is open. I don't have the details on what specific areas of campus recreation are open, and I know they're working to ensure that safety protocols are in place for all of the recreation services, but campus recreation of itself is open and available to students for the fall with proper safety protocols in place. Just not sure about the oval specifically.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so just wondering if we can just give a quick description of what is happening next week, and I can probably speak to this about orientation events, but this is a new sort of development in our scheduling that we have block week courses starting next week, but we do just have a couple questions about the first day of classes in relation to block week as well as the Labor Day weekend when it comes to official dates. So just wanted to confirm that classes do start on September 8th this year, and orientation events are happening on the 3rd and 4th, which we mentioned through Jen's part of the presentation. Those are the events for students that we would love to have your students encouraged to be register for different elements that are happening, and it's all virtual delivery. And we do have some specialty events happening on the 1st and 2nd. And I might be speaking out of term, but I do not know, are there a lot of first-year classes that have a block week requirement in most instances? I would assume not.
No,
it's kind of a new concept.
I'm not aware of any first-year classes that are offered in block week format. We want to make sure that students are, first-year students especially, are successful with that transition. So most of the regular term classes would be on that September 8th day.
Perfect. Yeah. Wonderful. Excellent. All right, I have a question for our students. Rachel and team, if you're ready. Your pit crew over there. So just questions about what students tend to fill their time with in between May to August, and this year as well as in regular in-person years. Is the university closed for those students during that time? those who are taking four-year programs, I think the question is specific to that, but the question is what happens between May to August for the campus itself as well as you as a student? What's your favorite thing to make happen?
Yeah, so there are obviously this year looked a lot different than other years, but I have filled my summers either working at the university like I am right now, or I spent 2 summers studying and taking summer classes, as well as I think the highlight of my May through August time would have to be when I participated in a group study in Ireland and got to study Irish history in Ireland. And so that was a really neat experience and one of the great things that is available to students through the study abroad office here.
Wonderful, Rachel. And maybe do you want to walk us through a little bit of the offerings as far as coursework when it comes to spring and summer? Because that can differ a little bit from each institution.
Yeah, definitely. So at U of C, you're going to look at having a spring course and a summer semester. So those are 2 different semesters that courses are going to be a little bit more sped up, but you are also going to be in classes longer. So it's a little bit more intense, but it's also a great way to get through some courses and especially get some of those necessary courses checked off your list. And it can be really beneficial for some courses. Last year I took Spanish, and so that was really nice to do all of that in a quick intensive setting. And yeah, it was really great. So would definitely recommend if that is something that works within your schedule for a summer job as well.
And we just made mention of it. It might be a new term for some of our participants out there. Tell us about Block Week, because I know that was one of my favorite ways to go.
Yeah, so Block Week is an opportunity to basically complete a class in 1 week through, if you think spring and summer are intense, Block Week just takes it up another speed. So you are going to be in lectures for that whole week from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and you're going to be doing a lot of online quizzes and different things throughout the course, as well as you will have a take-home exam or take-home essay or some other form of assessment that will extend into the semester. So Block Week is another great way to get some of those courses out of the way and lighten your load for the fall semester.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to come back to Rachel with a couple other questions, but I do have a question for Kevin, and I do believe you touched on it, but I just wanted to make sure that we are just emphasizing students' abilities, including international students' ability to access wellness support, and what some of the actual forums might be for students to access, if it over phone, email, and just kind of different video chats or different texting features as well. Kevin?
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Lenore. I am having a bit of connection issues. I'm not sure if everyone else is as well, but I did catch the essence of your question. So yes, all of our services are being offered, virtually. So in a nutshell, students can reach out for support. We offer most of our appointments through Microsoft Teams, through video chat, but obviously using phone as well for some students where that works better for them. Providing our services to in-province students is easy. There are no restrictions or limitations, right? It still is virtual. Once students are residing out of province, that then becomes a little bit more tricky, really just due to the professional associations that our mental health team belongs to, namely the Psychology Association of Alberta, as well as the Association of Social Workers here. For out-of-country students, yes, they can contact us for support as well. But a lot of that may end up being, referring them to local resources. And so it is a bit nuanced and it is unfolding. And, I'm working with, other campuses as well and these professional associations because really our goal is to provide as much service as possible, for students. And, we don't want students not being able to access us when they need it. So things that will always be available will be our online offerings. So we're have a whole host of self-help resources through our website, workshops. Students will be able to attend those. Our peer listening programs, those are also available for students. So.
Wonderful. Thank
Thanks
you, Kevin. You betcha. So Rachel and friends over there. Question for you. Just wondering about working during your first semester, having a job during your first semester. Is it something that would be recommended by students? And just curious about where a student might go to find information for jobs on campus. I feel like this is a good group to ask that to. And I should say, with the caveat, on and off campus this year looks a little different than usual. So when we say on campus, we say within the UCalgary community.
Yeah, definitely. So career services, which was briefly mentioned in Jen's presentation, would be a great place to start there. And then I guess to speak to how to go about it, if you are a first year student, I think that really will depend on what sort of time commitment you're looking for a job, as well as what you're willing to do and what your classes allow for. So I think career services and the UCalgary job board would be a great place to start. Personally, I did not work during my first semester, but I'm not too sure if any of my colleagues here did and can add in.
Take a quick poll.
The poll results have came back, but unfortunately you don't have any in this sample of students. However, I do have many friends who had jobs during their first semester, whether it be working at the Starbucks in the Res building or volunteering elsewhere. Yeah, it's certainly doable.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel and team. Quick question also in regards to, I'm just wondering, I'm just going to look through just to make sure that we're not getting too specific. I believe, Roxanne, this might come back to you. If a course or lab has not been indicated in a student's calendar as of yet, does this mean that the class is self-led? Or is there information available, I guess an easy way for students to tell at this point that classes are online versus in person?
Yeah, thanks, Lenore. So there is in the student center, when students look up their courses, they will be able to see, it'll be indicated as in person, on campus or off campus, online, remote. And so there is a place to find that. Whether they're typically what has been indicated, if it's synchronous and online and synchronous, then there will be a time indicated. I just want to encourage, if students are having any trouble trying to determine what the format of their course is, they're welcome to, I think, contact academic advisors who will be able to kind of walk them through what information is available. And that's also something at the Student Success Center. Michelle had talked about in her presentation, the virtual desk. And so we have one of those as well that's accessible off our main page. And so students can actually just pop in and we are able to pull up their Student Center with them and just take a look and see what information is available. And again, I think if advisors aren't able to support that information, and for the most part we are because it is indicated there, then students can contact their faculty.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roxanne. So I might shift back to Rachel. We have a question about transitioning and the coming into the new community that is university versus high school. So it seems like a big jump for some students coming from the smaller sort of setup that is high school into a large institution, even if we are in a bit of a different world in the remote setting that we're finding ourselves. So what do you feel is the UCalgary community? Can you talk to us about how it has been for you over your time here? And then I've got a follow-up question that can help direct students to make some good connections.
Yeah. So of course things were different in my first year, partly because it was so long ago and partly because of COVID. But yeah, I'd say that I was able to find community in a lot of different spaces, and a lot of spaces that at the time as a first year listening to it, they all just sounded like the typical canned answers of just talk to someone in class or join a club. And those things at the time were not any things that I did. However, as I went on in my degree, I realized how valuable that all of those pieces really are, and that it is really important to speak to the person who you're sitting next to, even virtually, who you get sorted into a breakout room with, because it really is great to have those connections and to make connections within your program. I'd say as well, though res will look very different this year, that's another great source of community that I was able to experience living on campus. And of course, clubs were a huge thing for me. I didn't get into them until around my second year, and I'd say that would be one of my largest regrets, because once I did, I saw why everybody was really pushing to join clubs in first year, because you not only get to make new friends and meet people who are totally outside of your bubble, but you get to experience new things and you get to find your people who feel the same way as you about so many different things. We have clubs for all interests, academic and non-academic. So I'd say that those are all great. And then of course, I am going to push orientation as one of the best ways to meet people. And I think particularly this year, that's going to be more important than ever. Students are going to be able to meet other students, not just within their program, but within their faculty, and get to connect with orientation leaders as well as staff members and hear from those across campus. And I think that this is going to be such an important piece this year, now that you don't have those more informal settings of sitting next to someone in class. And to pitch it from my own experience, I met my very best friend during my orientation, who we were roommates and still friends to this day. So I have to say that it is a fantastic experience and everyone should do it.
Nicely said, Rachel. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a little quick poll of your pit crew over there, Rachel, and then we'll come back to you with the answer. If you're able to share of your own, as well as Nomer and Kelsey, I would love to hear from you. One thing you wish you knew when you were going into your first year at UCalgary. And then in the meantime, I'm going to ask Jen if she can speak to us about how students can identify and leverage their strengths, and how we can help them when that is important to be doing, maybe when they're feeling overwhelmed or finding their way through their new waters that they're going to be swimming in with us.
Do you want me to start, or do you want the students to start?
Now we're going to give the students some time to think.
Okay, sure. So one of the things that's unique about the University of Calgary is that we have a program called the Strengths-Based Campus Initiative. And so this is an initiative that comes out of the Leadership Student Engagement Office. It's funded through a program called UCalgary Strong, and it allows students to take the Clifton Strengths Assessment, so to make sure I got the name of it right, the Clifton Strengths Assessment for free, and understand what their top 5 areas of talent are. So for many students, this is illuminating, and they know that they've come through high school and they were obviously very good students if they've been admitted to the University of Calgary, but they don't necessarily identify with those areas of talent or areas of strength, and they can't necessarily put words around it. And so going through this assessment, sitting down with a staff member in the LSE or in career services to go through the results and understand how those strengths might play out in their classes, in their group work, in their career aspirations. It can be a source of strength and comfort during stressful times to be able to really identify what those things are that make each of our students unique, that make each individual unique, and that make them uniquely talented. And so drawing on some of that knowledge and information as they're going through the transition in first year and the stress of first year can be a really positive thing. And we also build on strengths programming throughout their 4 years. So maybe in first year, they learn about their talents and how those apply to group work in their courses. And then maybe they start exploring in second and third year how those talents might apply to a specific career path that they might want to take.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. Before we go back to get the poll results from Rachel, just a question a little bit more specific about that might be good for Roxanne. And the reason why I feel like this is a follow-up question to Jen's comments is that I do believe it will vary between students and depending on what they do enjoy more over than some. So our question is just about a guideline for study time. Do you have any recommendations of what our students can expect from each course, which I know is a loaded question, but perhaps we have a general answer.
Thanks, Lenore. So yeah, that is certainly difficult to provide a response that would be true for all courses because courses certainly vary in terms of what students are going to be asked to do. I would say that some of the things to keep in mind would be, particularly as students are studying online, in terms of study time, as you mentioned, is really to think about creating some habits and some structures. I'm sure Kevin would agree that helping to kind of create some structure in terms of studying is really critical. I think that's critical anyway, but I think in particular, we found that some of our students, our more experienced students, or senior students are telling us that it's been the habits that they've been forming and in creating study spaces somewhere within their home and creating some routines has really been beneficial. In terms of how to study, and this is also always a great question for senior students. I think that students will find that some of their current study strategies are going to serve them really well for some courses, and some they're going to have to tweak and adjust, which can take some time. I would say to speed up the process, it's always really great to work with one of our academic development specialist team because they have some expertise in this area, and so can help students in trying out new study strategies and kind of really thinking through how do we match the study strategy to what we're being asked to do, how we're going to be tested. Students are going to encounter a lot of variation in terms of ways of learning and ways of knowing. And so really engaging in conversations with other students, with some of our staff, I think can be really a valuable experience as they go through this first year. The course, I know I keep talking about the course outline, but it really does give so much useful information in terms of how students are going to be tested and how they might structure their study time. So those would be the points that I would throw out there just in a really general sense.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Roxanne. And then on the vein of general sense, we are getting quite a few questions about how to direct students if a course is full. And I'm thinking there are some sort of approaches we might be able to speak to for the larger group, but recognizing it's going to be very individual for each student depending on what coursework they are taking and I guess the offerings of the course itself. So maybe Roxanne, if you can just give a quick little thought about that. And I will just mention that we're closing in on our end time here. We have about 6 minutes left. So I think we're just going to continue on with questions until we hit that mark. And if you are able to help us out with that one, Roxanne, then we'll lead back to the students.
Okay, so just really quick, and perhaps this could be shared in follow-up communications, the academic advising offices in students' faculties are a really great resource in terms of connecting with them to look at not only courses that they need to take and they're struggling to get into, but then suggesting alternatives as well. So I would highly recommend that students connect in with their faculty advisors. I don't know, Michelle, if you had anything to add on that, not to put you on the spot, but just you might be able to illuminate better than I can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In some of the important dates that I highlighted, really from the time classes first start, September 8th, to that add drop period, there's going to be a lot of students changing around their course schedules, making tweaks and adjustments here and there, and finding the right fit for them. So our team usually encourages students, in addition to connecting with their faculty, is just to be really diligent about checking on that class they're hoping to get into. And more often than not, with all of the movement that happens with course registration, spots will open up and students will be able to secure a spot in a course they've been hoping to get into. So that 2-week period is a really prime time for making those final adjustments and trying to secure a spot in a course that a student's been hoping to snag.
Wonderful, thank you. So Rachel, I'm going to come back to you for those things that we wish we knew.
All right, so I have Kelsey's and Nomer's nicely written up answers. So I am going to begin with Nomer. So you can look at him on the slide and imagine he's saying this. I wish I would have known that it is part of the process to consistently fail and make mistakes. University can be so big and overwhelming that it may feel like the stakes are big. However, just be aware that there are thousands of first-year students in your exact same situation. We are all continually figuring out our path to success, and everybody's journey looks different. So focus on growth, lessons, and experiences, and on this brand new journey. And then Kelsey's, I think, is of a similar vein. If it will load. So Kelsey said, I wish I had known that the nervous excitement new students are most likely feeling is very normal. Find comfort in that everyone is experiencing this for the first time and you are not alone. UCalgary has great resources that will help you through these feelings and help you succeed. Access them. Your future self will thank you. So I don't know if I will be able to top those. They were all really nicely put. I guess I would just say, remember that you are all feeling this way. You are all feeling this sense of imposter syndrome. And the further into your degree you go, the less scary it will be. In first year classes, it's really easy to look around and think, am I supposed to be here? Do I belong here? Am I smart enough to be here? And yes, you do. You are absolutely more than capable of doing this and doing it well. So I think that would be my main thing, as well as actually talk to your professors, go to office hours. That's another cliche that I think they'll likely hear in orientation, but that I cannot stress enough.
Awesome. That's a wonderful wrap up for us, I believe. If all of our other presenters feel the same way, I might just end by saying that we will be sending out that information over email, as well as a good place to find the link to tonight's presentation if you'd like to share it with anyone, and are still available for questions through that family@ucalgary.ca. And if I can, I have a little presentation that we wanted to kind of play out for everybody, just a little bit of an example of what UCalgary is still able to do even when we are far away from each other. It's a pretty neat little musical conclusion that I think Jen will enjoy quite a bit. So thank you everybody for joining us. It's much appreciated. We are looking very much so forward to meeting your students in whatever way we are able to do so this year, but of course into their degree. And we're happy that they have chosen and that you've been a part of that choice for coming to the UCalgary community. And thanks again.